All right. It is 5:30. I will now call the select board meeting for March 17th to order. If you can please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, first up is a discussion of interim TA position with Christopher Martin.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Chris, how are you? Okay.
All right, so at our last meeting, Glenn had mentioned that you would be willing to come on as our interim. So we
Yes.
have until June 2nd before our new TA comes in.
Okay.
And we were contracted with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, but that's running out very
Okay.
shortly. So we are interested in hearing what you have to offer and how many hours you can give us and what you're thinking.
How many hours are you thinking of?
I think it was at least 20, right, Kathy? At least 20. So, and then some weeks, stuff hits the fan. You might have to be here a little bit longer.
Like somewhere between 20 and 40.
Yeah.
Well, I can't do 40. I'll tell
No,
you that.
but I think we would.
I'll tell you that much right now.
Probably more between 20 and 30.
Because I'm currently doing 10 for the accounting position.
Okay.
Okay. So, I don't have a problem. Yes, with it.
Do you have a top limit, Chris, of what you can do for hours?
The only issue I have is that regarding my health, my doctor's appointments come first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know that.
It's understood.
Okay? That would be the only caveat I would put on this whole thing.
Okay.
As to the number of hours, I don't want to go over 40 for a whole week, to be honest with you.
Oh, that's more than fair.
Okay?
I didn't know if you had a certain number of hours because you're in retirement that you could work and make
It's not hours, it's more
salary days.
dollars
Okay.
I have to be careful of.
Okay.
Okay, but as long as it's done by June 2nd, I don't see an issue at this point.
And then the rate you were looking for, is that comparable to what we were paying Pioneer Valley?
What were you paying Pioneer Valley?
Well, with the middleman in between it, I think it was 75 an hour.
I don't know. I'm done. I don't want 75. That's going to drive it up too quick. 60.
Okay.
Yeah,
60 is fair.
Yeah.
something like that.
And while we're talking about Chris doing the 20, I think it would only be fair the other 20 would be on Kathy. And she would get the extra rate that we were paying her when she was doing it before.
Oh,
So
that's fine.
yeah,
I agree with
I
you.
just want to make sure if she's
Yeah.
doing the extra work on the
Yeah.
other 20 hours that she gets the
Yeah.
extra money for that.
And she knows she can contact me anytime too. So we'll go back to the arrangement we had before when I was interim up through the end of January. So
All right.
No, I think I don't. I think it's helpful for the town. And I spoke about this in our last meeting, just to have that, really that transition period with a new town administrator coming in, but also someone that's very familiar with our town and understands where the town has been, but also understanding some of the philosophies moving forward as well, because you were part of that. And to me, that meant a lot to have that person in place during that transition.
okay. The only question I have is where are you in the budget process?
So actually Dave is coming in today, Dave DeRocher for the highway department. I think Kathy was gonna set up 2 others for our next select board meeting. Just like similar to what you did, the departments come in front of us and let us know line by line what they were thinking when they did the budget, but I'm pretty sure they were told 3% across the board. Just like,
That's what I had put in. when
Yeah.
I issued
Okay.
the budget document.
as far as a a draft. I know Ira Bernsky did work on one, and there was a meeting that was supposed to be held last Thursday, but that was put off. So I don't know. We didn't see a draft of that budget. I
Okay.
think that's something that Kathy, did he share it with you?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
But he also didn't want to do anything further if we were going to have a change in TAs, because he didn't want to spend all that time if we were going to change what he did.
Okay.
So,
Did set up a meeting, I didn't know who it would be, but with Dave, Levante in the interim, and Todd and Mary Jane from the school, and that's on Thursday,
at what time?
4 o'clock here, just the four of them.
Was it 4? Was it 4 or 5?
4.
Okay.
Or the,
I thought
I thought it was 5.
I thought
okay,
it was
then
5.
apparently it is 5.
You had
I
told me.
can't remember
You
much
had-
right
You
now.
had told me 5.
5 then, it's 5 that I sent to, so it's gonna be here for the 4 of them. So the school process will start.
Yeah, I have it in as 5.
And I think, Chris, once you're able to take a look at it and give the board some advice, because like I said, we're going to hear Dave out today, but we don't know where the budget lies as to should he be doing less, should he be doing more, we don't know.
Okay.
So we're going to listen to him. We're going to see what he's requesting. But I think as the town accountant and the interim TA, I think you would be in a better position to let us know
Okay.
if we need to lower that number a little bit, or
Okay. All right. Sounds
we
good.
are a little late. We do know that.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
We are a little late on this one, so. Okay.
There were some ideas that were thrown out there, and I think it was just too much too fast from the other interim TA.
Yeah, okay.
So I think it helps to have the history and the continuity that you have.
All right.
So, and I think that's also when I reached out to Tammy, she would really appreciate the history of the town and the continuity.
Okay.
So she's looking forward to working with you as well.
Okay. All right.
So
Just-
we have to,
Oh, just one more question, when's he starting?
well, so we would have to appoint him.
So I will make a motion to appoint Chris Martin, the temporary town administrator, until Tammy Martin takes over her full-time position on June 2nd, 2025.
When does the appointment date start?
Now,
Now?
today.
As soon as possible.
Does that work for you?
Start
2 minutes from now?
Yeah,
Yes.
we have to get through the budget. So yes, starting today.
I'll second the motion.
The only thing I would ask is, Chris, if you're willing to do a little bit here and there after she starts, if she needs help, still pay you at the same rate, just to make sure that she has that transition to coming from. So not that it necessarily has to end June 2nd, but that you can help her kind of transition through.
Okay.
So, and she'll tell us her needs too.
She's also agreed to work some Fridays as well,
Yeah.
so
All right.
those can work into your schedule, but Fridays would be the best, because she'll be here, so it'll definitely help out with a transition period.
Okay. All right.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you, Chris.
So you're gonna take the seat now?
I wasn't planning on staying tonight.
Oh, okay, well,
Kathy wants me to stay, at least for the discussion of what the warrant.
Yep.
okay. All right, so we have 5 minutes before our public hearing. So why don't we go to John Matthews for citizen participation?
John Matthew, 288 Taylor Street. Just to follow up on that question I had the other day, the other meeting about the statement of interest sent to the building authority from the school department, right? My question now is, now that this building authority has it, how did they respond to us?
From my understanding is that they don't do it, they just hold it in place to know that we're still interested in it.
So they received it from our town.
Yep.
They looked at it.
And they pretty much just hold on to it, because I think, from my understanding from previous meetings with the school committee, is that it's to let them know that we're possibly still interested in the future, if we want to do something in the future.
So
They
the,
don't do anything with it, they just hold on to it.
so the next step would have to come from the school department,
Yes, from the town.
from, to the town.
Yeah.
And you have no information on what they're thinking, because they have the statement of interest, they send it in, okay, we got it. Now the next big step is a feasibility study, correct? But that would have to go through the town.
Actually, if you don't mind, Mr. Martin was raising his hand. He had something to add for the statement of interest.
Okay, what happens is we have a deadline to submit a statement of interest to get in the pipe.
Right.
Okay. The school submitted it to be put in the pipeline.
Yeah, March of 2024.
That does not mean that it will be automatically funded.
Exactly, I realize that.
Okay, so what'll happen is they take all the statement of interest in. They will then get back to the school and may send somebody out to look at the type of work that they're looking for to see if it's a viable project.
Have they done that?
I don't know if they've done it. I haven't been involved with the school that much. What happens then is they will set up a joint call, a Zoom meeting with school, town, and finance committee. They ask the question, do you have about $3 million to fund a feasibility study? That's what it was 2 years ago. When we went through this. We either tell them we do or we don't. If we don't, the project dies. Okay?
But as far as you know, the town or the school department hasn't responded.
That they haven't come out yet to look at the building, to look at what they're looking.
And they won't come out until the school department says, yeah, come on in.
Yes.
So as far as you know, the school department has said nothing, despite
To the best
over
of
a
my-
year,
To the best of my knowledge.
yes, over a year, that letter was sent.
Yes, to the best of my knowledge.
Will that letter stay active sort of forever, or is
No.
it?
Every year.
No,
they
they
do.
close down. It's usually an annual opening for a statement of interest submission. So what they did in March of '24 is probably expired for the
Yeah.
next round of funding. Okay, so they probably have to resubmit it in March of '25, which will be this month.
Okay.
Okay, to be considered in the pipeline. All right, or for consideration for moving forward. Now, a lot of times, the MSBA will call and ask, are all town officials in favor of this project? Now, that means the selectmen, school committee, finance committee. If we're all not in agreement that it's a project that we want to move forward, it will not be, be considered. Okay? MSBA wants to fund successful projects. They don't want to fund something and then find out the town doesn't want to.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Okay, so I don't know if it's alleviating any of your concerns that it's just gonna move forward. No, there are other steps, other conversations, other meetings that have to occur prior to it going forward to a
No,
feasibility.
I realize that. My interest was, over a year ago, the authority received a letter. And I would think the authority would say, okay, town, we're gonna contact you to see, like you just said, is everyone on board?
Mhm.
But apparently, they received the letter and they didn't do anything with it.
Because they may have contacted the superintendent of schools at that time.
But you don't know.
And I don't know, and asked, are all town officials in agreement with this?
And you would have to have contacted the select board.
Yes.
So we have to sign the letter of interest for the MSBA. So in order for them to submit that letter, it has to come in front of the select board. We sign it and send it over to them.
Right.
So, like Chris said, if it's expired, then I would call the superintendent's office. You can inquire,
Right.
see if they did anything with it this year, but nothing has come in front of us this year
Yeah.
as of right now.
But the other interest I have is that, the town is considering to spend a heck of a lot more money than the December 11th meeting in 2023 stated, right? But like Chris said, if the building authority gets back to us and say, is everyone on board? People have to realize, like Chris has said, it's $3 million, not necessarily all of ours, because the state will cover some of it, but it's still a significant amount of money
The $3 million the state won't cover, that's on the town. It's a feasibility study.
for the for
Yeah,
the
that- yeah,
feasibility.
That's on us.
What's that?
The $3 million for the feasibility study, the state will not give you any money back for that. They'll only give it to you for the final project, and it's a certain percentage.
Right.
But John, I do want to say thank you so much. I know you've come to several select board meetings, asking questions about the school. And I know we have it on our agenda to develop a charge for the high school options committee. So if the other two board members are willing, I would like you to make an appointment for our next select board meeting. And we can sit down and make that charge.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Because I know you have a lot of ideas, and I just want to make sure that we're incorporating all of them in the charge so that we can get that committee started for you.
Yeah, thanks for the update. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, next is going to be a public hearing on Monday, March 17th, 2024 at the Senior Center Building located at 10B West State Street, Granby, Mass. To grant permission to Massachusetts Electric Company doing business as National Grid to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public ways. Plans hashtag 31109-177 Carver Street. All right, so this is for National Grid to install one SO pole on Carver Street beginning at a point approximately 480 feet east of the center line of the intersection of Munsing Ridge. National Grid will be installing new pole number 59-84 across from P59 to replace an old tree guy wire that is being removed, Granby, Mass. Location approximately as shown on plan attached. Wherefore, it prays that after due notice and hearing as provided by law, be granted a location for and permission to erect and maintain poles and wires together with such sustaining and protecting fixtures as it may find necessary. Said poles to be erected substantially in accordance with the plan filed herewith marked Carver Street, Granby, Mass. Number 31109-177. Also for permission to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables, and wires in the above or intersecting public ways for the purpose of making connections with such poles and buildings as each of said petitioners may desire for distributing purposes. Your petitioner agrees to reserve space for one crossarm at a suitable point on each of said poles for the fire, police, telephone, and telegraph signal wires belonging to the municipality and used by exclusively for municipal purposes. Copies of the proposed plans, number 31109-177 Carver Street, Granby, Mass. Are available in the Board of Selectmen's office. 9 to 3 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 9 to 12 noon on Friday, located at 10B West Street, Senior Center Building, second floor. Welcome, National Grid.
Good evening, Ken
Good
Kriegel.
evening.
Ken Kriegel for National Grid. This is one of several remaining tree guys on that street. This one in particular is across from a new house being built that needs a transformer. So this is holding up them until we can replace their pole and give them a transformer.
Okay. Has everyone get a chance to see the location?
I believe the others will be on the next month or 2 months from now. I think there's 3 or 4 more.
So it's necessary to bring power to the house.
It's supporting what's already there and making it more reliable. The ones that are in the trees have been in there for we don't even know how long, and they're not going to stay in there forever.
Okay.
Okay. I will make a motion to allow National Grid.
Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any abutters?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, come on up. You just,
Do you want to say?
yeah, you just come up here to the mic. Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
My apologies.
So just name and address.
Edmund Cousino, 245 Carver Street, Granby, Massachusetts. I had a couple of questions and I wanted to get a better understanding of the poles going in. I don't exactly have a problem with this one in particular. I did notice that there is a stake for the pole further down. That would be P number 60. In understanding that there's going to be a transformer on the one going in, but P60 as well is in disrepair, if you would. And the tree guy wire on that one is significantly worse than the one that is being proposed. It's actually attached to a tree that has been cut and dead for some years now. I'd like to know if that one was also in plan to be replaced or moved or anything like that. I mean, it's got a wicked lean to it. Slack in both guy wires, like you'd said, though, especially one being replaced. My concerns with both of them. And then remaining concern would be with the trees around where that pole is going in. What's going to happen with them, where they're going, everything's just going to get chipped up into the woods again. Those are my questions and concerns.
Thank you.
So these poles are solely just for a guy wire going across the street
Right.
to replace what's in a tree now. There will be no power on these poles unless
Right.
you would require something on your property right behind it.
We already have
The
poles
reason
going.
we're only doing this one pole in this petition is because it's holding up the service across the street. The others are being addressed and they'll be on the next meeting. I knew they were bad, but I don't want to hold it up with more poles and make it more involved.
Understood.
And as far as sky wires go, if it's not right where the pole is going, we don't intend on doing any tree trimming. Yes, we don't have to.
Right.
There's no wires to take down.
There was there's actually one very big tree going directly right next to it. I would imagine would be trimming involved just to get an arm in there.
Was this 59?
Yes, this is 59.
So I think the tree was to the right and the pole was to the left, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, by like a couple of feet.
Yeah, so we don't really need any clearance. There's no cross arm, there's nothing going on the pole, it's just
Perfect.
right on the pole.
If you guys have no problem with that or anything, my only concern was it just getting chipped up and kind of dumped. That happened a few years ago when it kind of made a mess of things. Especially when that other one got cut, that's going to be replaced. Just we really didn't want that to happen again.
There's sometimes different types of trimming. If it happens during a storm, they drop it and they move on.
Right.
If they do maintenance trimming, and sometimes the town does trimming, even near our wires, usually we remove them.
Right.
It leaves stumps. We don't usually go take the stumps out.
Yeah.
But we usually do our best to haul all the wood out of there.
Okay. Perfect. Other than that, that was all my questions, concerns about it.
Okay.
And 60 is going to be having one
I can
replaced,
give
right?
you a card and try to get you details of when it'll be on the next meeting, but it is,
Yeah,
it is slated to be replaced. I didn't want to replace all of them. I just didn't want to hold up the customer service.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Now you can.
Okay, now I will make a motion to allow
Oh, thank you. We will now close the public hearing if there's nobody else that wants to speak.
Make a motion to allow National Grid to install a pole on Carver Street. One ISO pole. Massachusetts Electric Company doing business as National Grid for permission to erect the poles, wires, and fixtures described in the order herewith recorded, and that we mailed at least 7 days before said hearing a written notice of the time and place of said hearing to each of the owners of real estate, as determined by last preceding assessment for taxation, along the ways or parts of ways upon which the company is permitted to erect poles, wires, and fixtures under said order, and that thereupon said order was duly adopted.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
All right?
Aye.
There's two for us to sign.
So,
Yep. Thank you. All right, so you're all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good.
All right, so our next meeting is not till 6. Kathy, do you have anything for us?
I don't.
We can do departmental reports and then circle back.
I will make a motion to accept the departmental reports.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion?
Do we know where the water came from in the West Street building?
I was actually going to ask the same thing. So,
Okay.
Kathy, on the departmental reports, it did say that the West Street building had groundwater entering in 3 rooms in the cellar. Is that from heavy rains, from the water melting, the snow?
I don't know, but I will definitely ask Jeremy and can have him write back to you guys.
There is a concern there because it has a high water table there. And anytime you get a significant rain or snow melt that we've been going through recently, it has a tendency of coming in up through the floor. That's the issue we've been running into, it's because of the high water table.
So it's not going in through the sides, it's coming up from the floor?
It's bubbling up, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it kind of like people have sub pumps in their basements and they just like pump it out to a different area?
Yes.
So is it coming through floor drains, do you know, Chris, or is
No,
it
it's
just
just flooring, it's just bubbling right
just
through the
coming
cement.
right through the
Right through
concrete.
cement, yeah.
which is bad? That's hydrostatic pressure that could create problems with that.
Yeah. Make a great indoor swimming pool area.
Yeah.
And then, just to help Jeremy out, because it is disgusting, can you lock those boxes where the grills are at Dufrane's Park? I know we put the wooden box over it, but can we lock it so people can't open it and put their dog poop bags in there? Like, I don't know, there's gotta be some way to secure it, because that's disgusting. People grill on that in the summer, and they're just dumping their poop bags, taking the top off, and just putting the poop right in it.
Yeah, we have something made to go right over it.
Well, we've got the boxes, but there's gotta be someone where they can't lift those boxes.
Okay.
I don't know if Jeremy, like a latch or something on there with a lock.
All right.
With a good chain underneath the floor.
Yeah.
Lock down the-
All right, so anything else that anyone wanted to talk about for the departmental reports? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right, we don't have enough time to move on to something else before our next one, because we only have a minute before our next meeting. But I did want to let the board know that after speaking to Michael Downey for the DCR tree planting pilot program, he suggested that I talk to Jacob Macco, who is our state forester. I had a conversation with him last week. Him, Jeremy, and I will meet at Dufrane's Park on Thursday at 2:15 to walk the area and do soil samples and stuff like that. But he told me today, he actually reached out to me and said, make sure I put in for the lowland enrichment planting, because there was only 6 left and they're going fast. So I did put in for it. It doesn't mean we're guaranteed it. We still have to wait for Jacob to come on Thursday. But it's gonna do 10 witch hazels, 10 yellow poplar, and 10 swamp white oak. That's the only package that was left with DCR. So I just want to keep the board informed with that, and Jeremy and I will meet with him on Thursday.
Thank you.
All right, so our next meeting is 6 p.m. The select board will hold a public hearing on Monday, March 17th at 6 p.m. at 10 V West State Street, Senior Center Building. 1, to consider the transfer of a retail Section 12 wine and malt beverage on premises license from Martitas Pizza Incorporated, doing business as Pizza Palace, to Amur Incorporated, doing business as Pizza Palace. 2, to consider Murat Kant as manager for Amur Incorporated. Premises described as follows: 1-story building with 2 bathrooms. Main entrance in front of building, exit and rear, located at 31 West State Street, Granby, Mass. So is Mr. Matitas here? Or Amir? Right, from here? No.
I would table it, seeing no one's here. And we can continue it to our next meeting on the 31st.
Did he know that he had to be here? He did.
But I believe he's out of the country. He was going to have his lawyer come.
Oh, okay. Would the process have to start all over with the posting and everything?
No, as long as we're,
Right. Is the board okay with that?
I'm okay with tabling that. There's no representation, so
Continuing it or tabling?
continue.
Continuing it.
Excuse me.
Date and time?
Our next meeting, Kathy?
is March 31st
And
at 5:45.
I'm not sure what you have on our agenda right now, nothing.
I can move anything else if I have
But we
to.
need, it doesn't matter what time, it's gotta be on it. So,
We'll do 5:45, March 31st.
Was that the motion? Discussion.
That was
Yes, I'm sorry.
discussion. Now we need a motion.
I will make a motion to continue the license transfer of Pizza Palace until March 31st at 5:45 p.m.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion?
No discussion.
We are just continuing the public hearing.
Then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then Highway Department, Dave DeRocher is not till 6:15. So we will move on to approve and sign maintenance warrants.
I will make a motion, Town of Granby authorized for payment warrant number 57 dated 3/14/2025 with a total disbursement for warrant 57 of $93,659.11.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I will make a motion, the town of Granby authorize for payment payroll account summary. Warrant number 56 dated 3/11/2025. With a total disbursement of $502,014.89.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? And I will be abstaining from the select board and the teacher salary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Dave and I will vote on necessity for the select board salary.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you. Next is to approve and sign the special town meeting warrant for 4/8/25. Should be with this.
Yep.
Okay, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Town of Granby, Special Town Meeting, Hampshire County. To one of the constables of the Town of Granby and the County of Hampshire, greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town qualified to vote in elections and town affairs to meet at the East Meadow Elementary School on East State Street in said town on Monday, the 8th day of April, next, at 7 p.m., or as soon thereafter as the subject matter of this warrant may then and there be reached, and there to act on the following articles to wit. Article, should I read it?
You can read it.
Okay.
Read Article 1. Article 1, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, transfer from stabilization funds, transfer from free cash, borrow and/or bond $9,913,361 or a greater or lesser amount for the purpose of funding the renovation of the West Street School Building into municipal offices or take any other action in regard thereto. Given under our hands this 17th day of March in the year of our Lord 2025.
I think there's supposed to be two articles.
There are two articles.
Well, so that was one of them, Chris, right? And then the other one was the one with two. So we have to decide, right, if we're gonna go with one or if we're gonna go with two.
So I would just read
The second article, and then we decide, yeah. So Article 2, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, transfer from stabilization fund, transfer from free cash, borrow and/or bond, $2,500,000 or a greater or lesser amount for the purpose of funding the remediation of hazardous materials, demolition, debris removal, and leveling the site of West Street building, or take any other action in regard thereto, given under our hands this 17th day of March in the year of our Lord 2025.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? So I think going with the article, the special town warrant with the two articles is the best choice, because if the people don't want to renovate the building, then we need to do something with it, because we're just wasting money and maintaining it. So, and Chris, if you want to come up, is that kind of what you guys were leaning towards?
Actually, I had spoken with the chair of the finance committee. And instead of going back to like we were back in 2017, we had a study done. It's laid there. This way, either we're gonna renovate it or we get rid of it.
Yep.
That way, just, if the article fails, then we have to come back again, try and look for money to demolish it. Here's your choice. Either we renovate or we get rid of it, and we have to do a different plan of action on addressing the needs of town offices. But there will be a cost to taking it down.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a question I had for you, Chris. It just left me, but I'll think that. Anyone have any? No. Anyone have any?
No, and it's, in reality, it's not either or, because both could fail. So,
Correct.
there are possibilities here.
So I agree also that we go with the both articles and let the town meeting and townspeople decide which direction we're going in.
And I think too, like Lynn was saying, you can always, for Article 1, it can always be amended. Say they don't want the full 9 million, but they're willing to do the smaller portion, and then the other portion waits. You can always amend it for the other options.
Can be amended on the floor.
Yeah. But I think that lays out the big options, right? Keep it and renovate it, or raise it.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree.
like our job is to bring it to the voters of the residents of Granby and let them decide.
Okay?
So I will make a motion.
You do.
You did.
I'm sorry.
And he seconded
You
it.
seconded
We
it.
were just discussing.
Yep,
So
sorry.
if there's nothing more, all in favor?
Aye.
1 and 2, aye.
All right, thank you, Chris.
All right, I will go.
Yeah,
We're
that
gonna
new
sign
one's
it.
after.
Yeah, we're gonna
No
sign
one's
it.
after.
Traitor.
All right, our next appointment. Well, it's the only thing we got on here, so, well, Kathy, we don't have any common victualers or entertainment?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
So, our last thing is you, Dave. Come on up. So appointment with the highway superintendent for a fiscal year 26 proposed budget.
Before we get going on the budget, I was looking online, the last meeting you guys had, and you were talking about stormwater. I haven't heard back from town council. I gave him the packet that Pioneer Valley prepared for us.
Yeah.
But I think the timeline is very tight, and I just will caution, I don't know if who's gonna be here running the show is gonna be Chris. Just double check the timeline, because even if it passes, it's my understanding that authorizes the select board to create regulations, but then you have to
Make the regulations.
have a public hearing, propose the regulation, public hearing, and then approve the regulation at a board meeting. So all of that has to be done before that deadline expires. And I mean,
So our annual town meeting, the first one was May. So we had it on there for May, and Brian O'Toole knows that it's for May.
Yep.
So, and then that will give it, and I think the deadline was June 30th, right? Or July 1st?
June 30th.
So then the select board would have a month and a half where they would have to do the public hearing, write out the regulations. Yeah, it's gonna be tight, like you said, but,
Okay, and I'm just
okay.
cautioning you,
We'll make sure we keep it on.
yep, to make sure that,
We have it on
Timeframe
here as the
doesn't work.
stormwater regulations.
and that's
so-
assuming everything goes well at the town meeting. I mean, we have to
Right.
make sure that we sell that and tell the town voters that there is no choice.
There's no choice, we have to pass. We have to- by
Either
law, we have to.
you pass the bylaw, or you're voting for a fine
You pay
from
the
the EPA.
fines. I hope your budget's better news than that, jeez.
Well, Kathy asked me to talk to you about bridges again, and I know I spoke a year or so ago about bridges. We'll circle back to that in a minute. I know Dave wasn't on the board, I don't think, when I spoke to you last about the bridges, and I'm feeling a little better if you're saying Chris is on board, to finalize his budgets, because what my first impression was not good. What was happening behind the scenes. I don't know if it was true or not, but the rumors I was hearing were not good, and I'll leave it at that. The first thing I just wanted to point out, I mean, Chris and I have worked together for a number of years. When there's a problem that comes up, we sit down and talk about it and work it out. DPWs are the first department to get cut. We have no political pull. If the schools get cut, there's 1,000 people here, you know, at the next meeting protesting. If the fire gets cut, they got 500 people here next meeting protesting. If the police get cut, same thing. The impact is immediate with those departments. Okay, with ours, you can cut our department, and I'll get into that in a minute, and you don't see the damage for years, and it takes years to recover. And I just wanted to, before we get into the nuts and bolts of my budget, I just wanted to point out a few things to you. These are cost increases since 2000, about 25 years worth. If you look way over at the right, you can see how hundreds of percent increases have gone up. If we go up 3% a year, which is what we've been doing, you're cutting my budget, okay? Because I have less money to get the same work accomplished. Take a look just at the last few years. If you go down middle of the chart, pavement lines, look from 2000 to 2025. The cost have doubled. That's 20% increases a year. And we're living with a 3. So I just want to make that point. We don't have to go into every line item there. I just wanted to show what we're dealing with, okay?
I mean, if you look at the past 5 years, you don't have to go back that far, you can see the change in 5 years, the cost.
Massive increase. If you take out this little color chart that I gave you here, and this will tell you the whole thing in a nutshell of what happens to our department when cuts are made. The green line at the bottom is Chapter 90 funding in tens of thousands of dollars. So we were getting in the early 2000s, late 1990s, about $220,000 a year in funding. Okay? On the green line now. About the time of the big dig, the state says they didn't cut our funding. They did. In early 2000, 2001, 2002, our funding was cut for Chapter 90, less than half of what we were getting previously. Okay? It took well into 2009, 2010 to come back up to levels we were getting in the 90s. At the same time, the black line is the cost of asphalt. Asphalt skyrocketed in those years. The red line is pavement condition. Okay? We started off, when I first got here, we started pavement management. Our pavements, the average pavement was a 70, which is not bad for the average. Respectable. As you see, it fell off a cliff. It went down to 60 and down to a low of 42 over the years because of the cuts in funding and the cost increases. We were buying less pavement than we needed to buy every year. And you don't see that in 1 year. It takes many years for that to happen. It took, 5-8 years from 2000 to 2007 before you saw the pavements go over the cliff because we're not doing enough on maintenance. That's what happens when you cut a DPW's budget long term. You can be a hero, come in here 1 year and make a huge cut. You're not doing the town any favor. I mean, it won't bother me at all. I'll just retire early. But
What's the dotted line on there?
the dotted
Is that the
line
correlation?
is extra money that Chris got us because he saw this. And I feel a lot better knowing that Chris is going to be the interim through this budget process because he knows what we've gone through. He's seen this. We've talked to him. I've explain this information year after year in annual reports, telling everybody that we aren't spending enough on roads. The pavement conditions were deteriorating all the way up into 2015. We finally turned the corner in 2015. The state started giving us much more money, and the town gave us more money. And we're finally getting the pavement conditions almost back up to where they were when I was first hired. It took that long. And I just hate to see the next person come in here and go through the same 25-year learning curve that I just went through. And we're only talking roads here. Bridges, forget it. I mean, this is the last chart, last point, I'll drive home quickly. This is old news, 1985. This is information put out by US DOT, okay? If you maintain your pavements in the first 12 years, there's very little drop in quality of the pavements. And the only thing that's not applicable is the dollar amount. I used to say every dollar invested in that first part of the curve saves you 4. Well, multiply those numbers by 5. For every $5 you spend now, it's going to save you 20 later. And what'll happen is if you keep your pavements in good shape, the pavements deteriorate with time, you spend a little money, it brings it back up to here, and then it goes down again below that curve, okay? But it's still a lot cheaper than rebuilding the entire road.
And Dave, you could probably answer this question too. It seems like the quality of asphalt isn't the same nowadays.
No, it isn't. It isn't. What's happening, they squeeze more out of the oil, the crude, for gasoline and other products. It used to be everything went to the bottom. You got the tars and everything else for asphalt cement, but now they add more chemicals, break it down more, so there's less of the properties that you want in the asphalt cement, so you don't get the longevity that you once did. That's the world in which we live in now, but nothing we can do about that other than do our best to try to keep the pavements in good condition.
Is there more recycled product in it now than there ever was?
Almost, yeah.
Almost all of it?
Almost all of it. It's very rare that they don't recycle some percentage of wrap in the pavement.
Right.
And you're getting older asphalt that's a little more brittle, so they add chemicals and add things to improve the quality, but it's still not as good as it was. And we're not getting 20 years out of a pavement ever. If you get 12 years, you're doing well.
And I would agree absolutely, and I think you see that not on the local roads, but also on the highways. You see how quick, after highways paved, whether it's 91 and Mass Pike, and 4 or 5 years later, it's like an old road then.
Yeah, Mass Pike was atrocious just recently. The good news is, for if anybody wants any bedtime reading, I've testified to the State Transportation Committee. I've been on a committee, a select committee, where there's only 10 members that were working under the Chief Operating Officer, Megan, forget her last name, it's in this report, Haggerty, that's right under the Secretary of Transportation, above the Director of Mass Highway, and the Director of Administration and Finance on this report, explaining to them the problems we have. Small towns. I was the smallest town represented there. There was Worcester, myself, Mike Hale from Gloucester, Mike Collins from Beverly. There was a few other DPWs, a lot of town administrators, few. There was 10 of us. From small towns, big towns. Worcester, I think, was the biggest town that was represented in the committee. We looked at a number of different things, trying to find a way to make the Chapter 90 program more effective and protect us from losing value as the cost of asphalt goes up. If they just kept it level funded at $200 million a year, before long, we're not going to be able to do anything. It's just not enough money. But we got the governor's ear. they're proposing $300 million over a multi-year contract, and a portion, that this is the best part for us, a portion of that money will be based solely on road miles. We looked at a number of different options, and the committee decided that it was probably unwise to push for a change in the base Chapter 90 program. Chapter 90 is distributed by road miles, population, and trip destination. It's, I think, 50% or something, don't hold me to the numbers, 50% something road miles, 20 or 30 population, and 20 or 30 on the other factor. But now a lot of people are telecommuting from work. They don't even use the roads going into Boston, right? They don't need to. They're working from home or whatever.
Are you sure? Every time I go to Boston,
I know there's still gridlock, but it's
people use it.
I don't know if it's all workers, but in any case, a lot of things have changed, and the committee recognized that, but they felt we would come up holding the short end of the stick if we tried to push a change, and you're going against Boston and Worcester and all of these other big cities. They're going to take a cut, because if we switch to totally just road miles, the big cities would lose, and we would make out like bandits. When we get an extra, let's say, normal year like last year, we had 200 million. If they gave us an extra 100 million and based it solely on road miles, we would double our allotment, even though we only got an extra half. So it's a real benefit to us to look at road miles and not population or work, because we don't have any. We don't have a large population. We don't have road miles. What the committee finally agreed to was to keep the base 200 million as it was. So there's no loser. Boston's going to get their big share of the pie. Any additional funds, if there's 100 million more, would be based more on road miles than anything else. So we'll come up. And most of the cities and towns, not just us, I mean, all of the small cities and towns will get a more equitable allotment, put it that way. So that's the good news for our budget. So,
I mean, it makes sense, and honestly, it's that's the way it should be. Some of that, state taxes coming back to the local communities, helping out where it's needed.
and the bad news we've been trying to just maintain the pavements. I mean, Chris has funded us on some special articles for the trees when we have problems. It was, I don't know, I forget what the total was, maybe $300,000 or $400,000 over the years. I think we're in good shape on the trees. We're sort of getting ahead of the curve now. And when Chris and I originally talked, when he was still administrator, we didn't request an extra article or anything for this year. I think we're okay there. He gave us extra money on pavement a few years back. I want to see what happens with this committee report this year. Hopefully we get quite a bit more money from the state in a couple different ways. He also gave us money on some stormwater issues as well. There's an article out there that we've been drawing off of. The problem is when we get diverted to pave a parking lot at the annex or pave the cemetery, it takes a chunk of our labor out of a very short construction window season. We're still trying to get all the roads done. But when you tie up our whole crew for a week or two at a time, it's a week or two that we don't have to work on other things. We'll do whatever you want and work wherever you want, wherever the town feels that they need us at the moment. But the point I'm making is we don't get to do as much on storm drain. I know we changed 3 catch basins near your house, and there's some other big issues coming under the next permit. I don't know if it's going to happen or not with the new administration and what's going on at EPA right now. But some of the proposed new permit is budget busters for us and for all the cities and towns in the state. It will bankrupt us. I mean, they're talking about us replacing every catch basin in town, bringing them up to the newer standards. which might even involve replacing the entire storm drain system in town. I mean, you're talking millions
Yeah.
and millions and millions of
With
dollars.
that said, David, too, I think that's important for us from our seats to have those conversations with our state reps and our state senators, and so we can explain to them these type of things they vote on, the real impact it has on a town our size, and you know, they are our voice when it comes to the state house, and we need to make sure that we utilize them as such, because I just said those are things that can truly impact this town a great deal.
We've already pushed back with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission and the Stormwater Committee. There's 26 towns, I think, that are involved. And I was very vocal, pushing back. This is an exercise in futility. It's gonna accomplish nothing to improve stormwater. I don't know if any of you have taken any soils courses or anything, but when you do a soil gradation, you shake the soil through a series of sieves down to a 200 sieve, which is almost like fabric. You can't even see holes in it. It's so fine. If more than 50% goes through a 200 sieve, it's called a clay-sized particle or silt-sized particle. So you've got the percentage of your material that's above the 200. That's all the sand and gravel sizes, stones, whatever, and there are different percentages in each thing. But the clay-sized particles, to determine the grain size in the clay-sized particles, you put it in a cylinder of water, and you shake it up, and you measure it with a hydrometer. There's a law that's called Stokes' Law, and it determines by how long it takes for the specific gravity of the water to change the size of the particles that are settling out in that column. It takes like 24 to 48 hours for most of those particles to settle out. Do you think changing a catch basin from a 2-foot sump to a 4-foot sump is going to change anything from the soil going through that during a storm? All the clay-sized particles are still going to be in the Connecticut River. You're not giving it time to settle out of 48 hours or more. So these people writing these laws, they're not engineers. They're environmental activists that have no knowledge of the real world and how things work. And they're going to cost all of us a lot of money for nothing. So we push back. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if they're going to strike that requirement. We'll see what happens when it gets passed, if it gets passed. I know we've got a new administration in there. They're looking at all regulations that the EPA is doing, but that's going to be a budget buster for us. I mean, if that, even that little piece of it goes through, and every other community in the state.
David, is there something that you can write up and maybe bring Chris into it too, put together, and that's maybe something that we can send to, the state rep and state senator with the signatures from the select board?
I think it's a little early though, because the EPA might slash that altogether and change the permit. I think we have to wait until it's finalized and put in. It's still in the comment period now.
Well, it might be
Proposed
good.
change.
It also might be good to put it on the radar too, that, even coming forward, this is some things, in their discussions with, their colleagues, some of the stuff may come up, so it's a talking point. It's a talking point for us right now. So, it could be a talking point for them at some point, so just so that they're aware of it, that's all. And you can put it, sorry, you can put into that terminology that, this is in the beginning phase. However, if this moves on, these are some
Some
true
things to think
concerns.
about, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Whatever. So basically, I think we met a year ago or so. I know, Dave, you weren't on the board at the time, about bridges. I mean, the state inspects every bridge every 2 years, including the small bridges, which are called BRIs under the Mass DOT program, which are bridges under 20 feet in length. Which I think the latest one you just saw come through was New Ludlow Road.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
There's always things that they're gonna put on there, and they're gonna say, prioritize the repair, and if it doesn't say critical, it's not imminent failure or anything like that. We don't have the money to maintain the roads, never mind the culverts, never mind the bridges that have a one piece of rebar showing. When there is a critical item, like a scour item, we had some on the Carver Street Bridge last year, we immediately get out, rip wrap it, whatever, because it could be a source of immediate failure of a portion of the bridge if it undermines a wing wall or something like that. We have been out on New Ludlow Road. New Ludlow Road's a special case. We rip wrapped that when I first started here, and it was a miserable job. We had to set up conveyors and just about place all the stones by hand. There's not enough room to get a machine under there or anything. What happens is kids go underneath the bridge, fishermen, and the traffic kicks the riprap down the slope and it erodes a little bit. It's not an imminent failure, nothing to get excited about, but it's just another one of those items. With enough time and money, yeah, we'd get to all of this stuff, but there isn't enough hours or money in a day to cover all these bases. So I try to stay ahead of anything bridge related that's critical. If there is a scour or something like that, we're going to get right on it. We did early on, we did some repairs on when I first started 20 years ago. On the North Street Bridge, we did a lot of concrete work. That bridge was getting to be in pretty bad shape. There was a lot of rebar that was exposed, it was spalling, and we resurfaced it. But to get the permitting necessary to do that work and the labor necessary to do that work, or the cost to hire a contractor to do that work, I mean, we just don't have the money. I mean, to do a little small repair here or there, yeah, no problem. We'll be on it. But the bigger stuff, I know you've seen some on like Amherst Street, the culverts there. They're talking about corrosion on the water line. It would take us several years to permit the sheet piling that would be required to de-water it just so we could get in there and try to repaint or provide some corrosion protection at the water line. The millions of dollars you're going to spend, you might as well just let the thing fail and put in a new culvert like we did on Bachelor Street, a new concrete box culvert. So
And that was
I
one-
weigh the cost benefit before we get involved with any of those type of projects. And if it, a lot of them we're rolling the dice on, yes, because there's no way to predict how bad or how long it's going to last. But the bridges are not my biggest concern. It's the culverts. And I know that there's a culvert further up on Amherst Street, way up towards the top near 116, that we've been in there and repaired it already once. It's rotten. The bottom of it's rotten. We're just on borrowed time with a lot of these culverts. The one on Bachelor Street we just did cost $1 million to replace. We have 142 culverts in town. Run the numbers out.
So
we-
Dave, I actually just wanted to clarify that the one on Bachelor Street, that was funded through the state, right?
It was funded by Eversource
Okay.
as a mitigation project because conservation let them go through the wetlands and all these things. It was sort of, well, never mind. We'll just call it a mitigation project.
Yeah.
We all paid for it.
But to your
Yeah.
point.
You pay for it in your electric rates.
But
Right.
to your point, it costs $1 million to do it, so that's.
Yeah.
Cost $1 million to do one, and I would not have even done that one. That's a culvert that I replaced 20 years ago for about $5,000. It's a culvert that is on a stream that dries up every summer. It's not even a perennial stream. That would have been the last culvert on my list to do. And because, again, you're not letting engineers make the decision, you're taking this out of the picture. It's made by environmental people that have blinders on to everything else. They're looking at one thing only. Oh, that's a cold water fishery, and that's the one we want to do. Even though that culvert would have probably lasted 50 more years. When we have other culverts that are on their last leg, and then we're holding our breath with a wing and a prayer that they don't fail.
Do they have grants and stuff like that that come up for the culverts and the bridges?
They do,
Okay.
but there's, again, a fairly large percentage that we have to come up with.
Okay, so it's.
One of the grants that I was thinking about going for was the bridge on, it's a BRI on, because there's a separate BRI program. Culverts are under a different program. But the bridge on Carver Street is a small bridge, and Mass DOT has a special program with that. You can apply for design funds 1 year. There's a match. We would have to come up with some money out of our Chapter 90 money to match. But if we do it in 2 phases, one to get the design done and then apply for a second BRI grant to do the construction work, it still would be advantageous to the town to do it that way. The culverts are less advantageous, I mean, shall I say? At $1 million a copy. And the percentage of the grant is much less from the state. They give you some money, but we'd be spending a lot more of our road money that I just showed you. We're not even spending barely enough now. And I don't know if you saw the black curve. We're going in, again, the last year or so, asphalt prices have gone spiking again because the cost of oil went up. So if we don't get this increased in Chapter 90 money, we're going to be starting to go the other way on the pavement conditions again. So not to be the bearer of bad news on the bridges, but they're my least concern. I think the culverts are my biggest worry.
Do you know, Dave, which ones they're going to next? Is there a list of them, or do they just pick them randomly? Or they must know.
That they want to do? There was only one. That was a one-off on.
As far
on
as
that
inspections go.
Inspections on culverts is us. They don't
No,
even.
on the bridges.
Bridges, they do every bridge every 2 years. They're
Every 2 years.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
So you might see some come in this year for 2 or 3 bridges, and then next year you'll see 2 or 3 other ones.
We
That's
get an
what I
update
noticed.
on, they actually get a printout, they talk about the bridge, they talk about the
Yep.
quality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're getting them like 1 or 2 at a time, so I was curious as.
Yeah, it's on their schedule. When their bridge inspection teams go out, we'll get the report immediately after they get done.
Okay.
But again, as far as I'm aware, there are some issues with some of the bridges, nowhere near as bad as some of Mass DOT's bridges. I mean, you go see the Lego blocks that they put under some of these, all the timbers and whatever, holding bridges that are just totally falling apart. I mean, our bridges, yeah, they need work. In a perfect world, yeah, we'd be on them and have a crew working on them, but not enough hours or money.
Yeah.
So after having said all of that, we can get to the line items of my budget. I pretty much, there are a couple of issues in our department. One is labor. I had to fire an employee last week because that was the replacement employee for Russ, who retired in July. And the employee didn't get his license. He was supposed to get it before winter. Winter's come and gone. Chris wanted to fire him in December. I put it off till February, gave him till February to get his license.
Is
He's
that the DOT one? The signal?
CDL.
Okay.
Still didn't have his license, and he was terminated last week. I've got another guy retiring this year. I'm not that far off from another guy besides that. So there's issues.
Succession plan.
Is a problem. It's a real problem with funding. And that's something when the new town administrator comes in, that's going to be first on my agenda to deal with.
Yeah.
Because right now we are not competitive. And I know Chris wants to put another ad out for a driver. I don't expect to get any responses back from anybody that's qualified.
Well, no, because you can't compete with the private companies right now.
I can't compete with the other towns around.
Yeah.
And again,
We'll get into that in off camera.
No, but it's, you know, David, it's reality, and we've seen that just at the board itself as, you know, a town administrator position that we have now. Our building commissioners, you know, we're seeing that, and again, it's becoming what other towns are.
The labor pool
paying.
out there is shrinking,
It
and
is. And to get those quality or specialized positions as up that is, because it really is, you know, you end up, and I hate to say it, but almost in a bidding war with either another town or a business, and, you know, and the person is looking out for their best interest where they can make the most amount of money. You
Yep.
know, like,
it's a challenge. And trust me, I've run businesses in the private world with my father, and I know the pie is only so big, and you got to slice it up. But I prepared this budget the way Chris asked, with the 3% increase, knowing that 3% is still a cut to our department.
For wages, though, you did 10, right? Because of contractual obligation and stuff like that.
The requirement that we've been going under over the last number of years is the total bottom line. Keep it at 3. And yes, I
Okay.
increased the wages big time. That's just to try and get a foreman in before I retire. I don't know that we'll be able to get one in for that amount of money, but I had to start somewhere, and trying to fund that position some way. And in order to do that, I had to cut in many other areas in the budget. Is it perfect? No. Would
For capital, are you guys asking for anything for this year?
we put in for a couple of things. One was a skid steer with a milling attachment on it. That went through capital already. I don't know if you guys saw it yet. And a pickup truck. The pickup truck is to replace mine. There's a lot of body rot on it. It's a 2015. We've got 2 other trucks in that same vintage with the same issues. So if we don't start now, we're going to have a real problem in a couple more years by the time these other trucks come up. The skid steer, what was discussed was to not trade it. It does need some work. But the biggest item that I need for that is the milling attachment is like $27,000. We use that on every project we do. We cut driveways with it. We mill the transitions. We use it. We bought that machine used, the milling attachment, and have been using it with the new skid steer all these years. It's milled a ton of work. When I need that attachment, I need it to work. And the last road job we did, some of the main bolts stripped out or broke, sheared, and we had to get them back in so we could use it. The housing where the bolt threads into is marginal. I don't know how long it's going to last. That's why it's on its last leg. That's one of the reasons we put that in this year. But not huge dollar amount, but it adds up. And
But the skid steer you said is operational, the one that you have now?
it's got some problems with the undercarriage. We use that for mowing, roadside mowing, prepping every road that we do. We put a new undercarriage, the rubber track on it, but there's a broken spring or something. It's got a spring underneath there, and you can see that it's wearing on the undercarriage. It's not wearing on it's not riding on the spring any longer, the rollers. It's going to be quite a job to fix it. And, our thoughts were, you're spending thousands of dollars. Chris and I were discussing switching a snowblower attachment on and off that Toro lawnmower every year because it's not a quick disconnect. The Bobcat, I can switch the snowblower in 5 minutes, one guy. That Toro takes 2 mechanics from Toro to come up, reprogram the machine, put the thing on, and take it off at the end of the season. You're probably spending $4,000 every time he switches snow to summertime operations with that machine. And then he still can't even use it in the wintertime until it warms up the temperature. It's got all these protections on it. You can't move the hydraulics until the hydraulic oil comes up to temp. The Bobcat is like minutes and you're out there and working on it, and doesn't cost thousands of dollars a year. So that originally, when Chris and I were talking, he goes, what if we gave that one to Jeremy? I says, I've got a snowblower attachment for it. It's 2 seconds to throw it on. It would work for him. That was what Chris and I had talked about doing. Whether the new administrator buys that or not, I don't know. But that was the plan anyway. One of the other things I wanted to comment on is our department is the same size almost. I've got 2 co-op students working for us right now, and I'm hoping to find a home for them permanent. I would like to. They're both good kids. They show up every day. They work, good attitude. But what we've done over the years, and I really have to thank the town and the select boards that I've worked under for a number of years, and Chris, they've supported us with a lot of equipment to make us more efficient. And that's how we've been getting by without getting further behind, is making sure that we have as much efficiency and improving our operations with a number of different pieces of equipment to eliminate labor. And it has worked to some degree to stave off the repercussions of being shorthanded. But the budget that I proposed under what Chris had asked for, I think will work. It'll get us through another year. It isn't going to solve all the challenges that our department faces in the future, but I don't see
So the tree removal, you said the trees are good, right? So that's why you had taken.
there's still money in the tree budget and an outside tree budget as well. That's the yearly budget. We always are taking trees down. In fact, I'm waiting to hear back from the contractor to get a bucket truck in here to take some more down now. But it isn't like it was a few years ago where we were taking thousands down. It's limited numbers now, and the wind can blow and we don't have 20 trees falling across the road. These last couple of windstorms, we had no calls. So I think the program and being proactive, taking these trees has really helped. And I'd much rather take them daytime when it's nice out, when you see what you're doing, than at night in the middle of a torrential downpour trying to clear a road is not fun.
And then storm phase 2. That one was.
That's another big unknown item. I am cutting a little bit in that, but again, there are some. Chris and I sort of put a number together years ago because there's a lot of unknowns in that program from year to year. And next year, again, they're talking about another item making us do some, one project that we're supposed to do is at the West Street School. And I mentioned it to Chris and to your consultant, the civil engineer there. There was 5 sites that were located or determined by our consultants for storm phase 2 under the present permit that we needed to do retrofit projects on to improve storm quality. It's in our current permit. We were supposed to do one of them this year. we did not do it because we were waiting to see what was proposed at West Street School. It didn't make any sense for us to do a project and then have the contractor or the civil engineer rip what we just did out. It made more sense to me to talk to them, say, yeah, we can probably give you $20,000-$30,000 out of this budget to spend towards some improvements of stormwater at the existing West Street School. And we just put it off a year. I will have to mention it in the annual report that we didn't get it done, but I think we have a good argument with the EPA, and I think they'll go along with it. That's a project that's gonna have to be done. There's a couple of others in town. One is at Brown Ellison, one was, don't hold me to all the deeds, they're in the pages and library of reports. But in addition to that, coming up in the next permit, in addition to the remove and replace all of the catch basins in town, there are talks of nitrogen and phosphate removal. I don't know what the ramifications of that are. That involves treatment structures that are built, put up. Currently, we've been getting by with just additional street sweeping. In the fall, we have to sweep the roads and get the leaves off them, which is supposed to make a big difference in nitrogen. But the people that write these permits never have traveled out to Granby and see that there's leaf litter everywhere along the roads. So us sweeping 10 wheelbarrows of leaf off of the road is not really making a huge difference as far as I'm concerned. Maybe it does in Boston, but it doesn't here. But we're still going to have all of these items to comply with, and not knowing what we're up against, I just hate to reduce that budget too much. I did reduce it a little bit, as you saw, because we haven't spent down that budget. But I am earmarking it for some things, and that's one thing I would request that Chris and the next town administrator do, is encumber those funds into next fiscal year for the West Street School or other areas that need stormwater improvements per the permit.
Yeah, just looking in the past, it was a substantially low amount. So to tie up that amount of money, it just seems really high.
It does, but if you don't know what you're up against and what it's going to cost to do these programs, because changes in the permit or whatnot, it's, I don't spend the money if it's not a legitimate stormwater, and Chris knows that, so it just goes back into the general fund. So it really, yeah, it does tie it up for 1 year.
We're asking, I guess my thing, and we don't know where the budget stands with everybody else because you're our first department coming.
Yep.
If we need to tighten up the budget, it's accounts like that might have to get shrunk a little bit because we don't know where we stand right now.
Well,
So
in
it's
my
just something to
case,
think about.
in my case here,
Yeah.
that shrinking that number any more than I already have would really give me pause, because I have no idea what the cost is going to be when this new permit comes into play. And
And we don't know when the new permit will come.
no, it was due 3 years ago.
Okay.
So that's why I keep these monies there, but you never know when, okay, next year you got to comply with this. It should have been 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to spend the money on frivolous things that I don't need.
Which is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, if another budget needs something and we've tied it up already, then it's not there to use, is all I was saying.
Yeah, but
So,
that's, on the other hand, if
If you
the
need
permit
it,
comes
it's
through
there.
and they tell you next year you got to do this, and
I see
that,
both sides.
You're kind of looking for the money.
Yeah.
yeah, you're going to be scrambling.
Because you're almost, you're appropriating the money for something that will be coming. You just don't know when it's going to hit.
When the deadline comes, yeah.
It's being proactive instead of reactive, which is
Yeah.
good.
Yep. I know Chris knows about that, and that's why he left it there. And I mean, if we had a crystal ball, I could say, oh, we're only going to need 10,000. Take the rest and give it to me next year or whatever. But I have no clue how that's gonna shake out. And even on the cost, the EPA says you gotta comply with this, you gotta reduce your nitrogen by X amount. I have to hire a consultant, they have to come up with a scheme, they have to design this, and then they say, go build this. So that might not be even anywhere near enough. I don't know. It's just a placeholder.
I've asked questions about the line items that I had questions on. I don't know if you guys have questions about any specific line item.
Pre-work outside budget, Dave, is it just, that's just your tree budget work? Tree budget,
Yeah,
just
it's,
outside budget is.
it's like hiring contractors to come in and
outside
do,
contractors, okay.
but it's not an article, that's in my budget.
Okay,
The article, when we had like $250,000 or whatever set aside, we went to town meeting and
Is it
appropriate,
3 year plan, right?
yes, I believe there's a little bit left in one of the articles. We've spent most of them down. So there is a little bit left and we are still taking trees. I mean, it isn't like,
yeah, no, I
Ash-
was more curious if it was you guys or an outside contractor, if you needed them.
we work with the outside contractors because we found that's the most efficient way to do it. We're taking trees down for $300 a pop versus several thousand.
Sure.
And we have to pick up the mess after even National Grid comes in. National Grid just came in, took 2 trees for us, one on Crescent, one on Porter 2 weeks ago. They put them on the ground, they leave the mess for us to pick up.
Sure.
So rather than us come back in and pick up the mess after the fact, we hire a contractor, they put with a bucket, they'll put the tree on the ground, we'll have it all cleaned up the same day, and we do multiples. We'll do 4 times as many trees in a day than National Grid will with an outside contractor and our crew.
Fair enough.
David, how is so you're down one person right now?
I've been down a person all year, all winter, and that makes it really tough. And you just got a complaint in, what, today?
Yes,
From-
they have it.
From a person on East Street complaining about the paving job out there. Well, I went out and looked at it. He said I didn't respond to an email. The email came in right after or during that last long storm where I was out like 30 hours. So I'm not saying we're perfect. We sometimes miss an email, but I check my emails every day and I usually respond to everyone within a day or two on items like that. His driveway, I can show you a picture. I've got it on my phone. It's got a belly in it. It's settling.
Well, my concern is that, now we're, coming into spring, we're coming to the summer, which is starting to be, like I said, a lot of projects come up and stuff like that. And if you're down one person already, and then, you come into the spring, the summer, people start taking vacations, and, how's that gonna impact the overall work that you need to get done? So I think, it just kind of, prioritize, is, I need to hire someone for that department.
He's been trying.
I know, but
I'm making up the difference with a couple of these co-op kids. They're part-timers, but like I said, I would love to.
well, to the point, it might be a time for a serious conversation as what,
The wages.
wages are and stuff like that, because, not filling it's not the answer.
No, it was the last snowstorm. You don't know the half of it. I had one employee was in California on long-term employee. It was family deal, and I try to encourage all the employees not to take vacation in the winter because we can't afford losing anybody. Normally, it's all hands on deck for the storms. This one exception, I figured, we'll get by. Yeah, the worst storm of the season, 30 hours out. And, most of my guys are home. I'm getting a call from Jason Richards. It's flooding everywhere. The town's going underwater. I'm out in the loader. I got a shovel. I'm up to my knees in water. I'm 67 years old and I'm out there shoveling like a crazy fool, trying to get water going in all these catch basins and everything. And that's after we had already tried the day before to open up everything and prepare for that storm coming in. When we're shorthanded, the rest of us have to pick up the slack.
And that's the point I'm making.
And we were really shorthanded during that storm. I did end up having to call most of the guys, or quite a few of the crew, back in after we had been out for 20-something hours. Some of the guys were out way past midnight the next day, and we didn't get everything. We missed Smith, Leo, and Kellogg, and we paid dearly for that. The next day, there was 6 inches of ice on that road.
And a lot of, with that storm, a lot of the towns and cities struggle with it.
We're far worse shape than us, yes.
It was just one of those things that happened the way the storm came, and it froze and sort of freezing and things like that. So, a lot of complaints in a lot of different areas, but it's just sometimes it happens. But I just think, for your department and really trying to move forward for the future, these are really serious things we need to look at. We have a problem that's happening now, and we need to find a solution for it, because it's not going to get any better when.
No, it's not.
You need someone, staff, and you have now that you can count on, depend on, and there's certain licenses that people need and things like that. And, as I said, you have someone that maybe retire in the near future, yourself, and things like that. And, we do have a new town administrator coming in. And I think it's up to this board trying to start figuring things out, to make that process a little bit easier for that person as well, because,
Please, don't wait till our department implodes.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying, is that, and I think, Crystal said earlier, we need to be proactive instead of trying to react to it.
So I think looking at the wages of the other towns and trying to be at least
competitive.
With them, I think is.
Otherwise, you're going to lose.
Look at again.
You're going to lose people. You're going to lose the few good people that. I've got one young guy that's just got it. We just got him we originally got him a CDL. We just got him his hoisting license. He's just coming up to speed, but he's doing a lot of repairs too. I hope he stays with us a good many years. Yeah. He's a good employee. I don't want to lose him. The rest of our crew is all like me, getting gray and aging out. And
so I think I'm the liaison for the highway department. So Dave, we can sit down. And
definitely.
See if Chris has time. You and Chris can sit down and come up with a plan to move forward with not only the new employee, but a competitive wage that's comparable to the other towns.
I really think you got to bring the new administrator in too. I mean, Chris
she's here.
Is only here for a short term, and I think you got to get buy-in from the new person that's going to be here well after hopefully I'm gone. And
Agreed. I did suggest that in recent weeks, that we need to get her involved in some of those conversations.
that's some of the stuff that was really giving me pause about the last interim, because if you're only here for a short time, you don't break everything and walk out the door and leave the next person to come. That's just management 101.
This board has a responsibility to the town. So in citizens, we'll have that conversation with the new town administrator as well. But these are things that just can't wait. You really can't.
So I'll have Kathy reach out to Tammy, Chris, and myself. And we'll figure out a time to get together and figure it out sooner rather than later. I don't want to wait until June until she's here full time. Let's get it moving so that you can get someone in there now. Yeah, exactly. But let's get it done now instead of waiting. I think that's definitely.
Yep, definitely.
So I don't have any other questions with the budget. I think pretty comparable to last year's.
Great. And I don't either. And David, and you made a good point. It's easy to say, okay, we're going to go up 3%. That may cover, some wages and things like that. But when material goes up 15%, it doesn't help.
Each year, it's a cut. No matter any way you slice or dice it, it's
more of a guideline.
Yeah.
For the departments, but we understand, and that's why you come in front. Like certain things change, supply and demand. We get that.
Well, I'm a lot more comfortable with Chris, because I know that if there was an issue like the trees or whatever, we would sit down and talk, and he would handle it, and we'd put our heads together and find a solution to the problem. But when you get somebody else coming in and it's an unknown quantity, you know, am I stuck with this and they're gonna say, see you next year? That's a real problem.
And that's something that I think the board didn't want to make sure that we definitely weren't doing, is that, we do have a new town administrator coming in, and we want to, really, we want to tighten up the package, if you will, as much as we can.
Yeah.
So we're, passing it on to her, and, we want to make sure we're doing things right.
Mhm.
So,
And we understand that every year, there's different things that can change. You got to be reflective and figure out, what's movable, what's not. So, and that's just being cognizant of your department and its needs. So we appreciate the work that you put into the budget.
And if it's any consolation, I plowed that nasty storm also. So I feel your pain on that. And I think you guys did a great job throughout the town. Even if you missed the road, we have subcontractors in Chicopee that missed entire parking lots, and it was not fun trying to clean those up.
No, we paid dearly for it the next couple of days. It took us a couple of days to get everything under control, and I don't know what happened to that guy's email, but I looked at the driveway. In case you're concerned about that, we sort of skipped over that.
yeah.
East Street was milled 1.5 to 2 inches down everywhere. You can see the curb on each side of his driveway. There is no way that the road raised up 2 inches. What's happening is his driveway's got a belly in it. There's sediment in it. It's old. It needs to be replaced. It was never built correctly to begin with. I'm not going to go give him a new driveway because it wasn't put in right. If you look at the neighbor's driveway, it comes to the top of the curb. And I normally recommend that when there's Cape Cod berm, go over the curb. Don't cut the curb, just go right over it. You can drive right over it. And that gives you a few inches of grade.
Yeah.
If the road grade ever changes an inch or two, you're not taking road water. Your driveway's up a couple of inches higher. That isn't the case in the guy's complaint. And
Are you saying I should put a curb in front of my driveways and stop
Maybe.
the water from coming down?
we built a new catch basin across from you. Just send it to your neighbor.
Well, thank you very much, Dave, for coming in.
Thank you, David.
Okay.
Saying it.
Didn't mean to take up so much of your time. Sorry.
No,
No, it's all good stuff.
it's informational, that's what we need.
Great, so does the board have anything for next time?
I don't.
So as far as the charge for the high school options committee, you guys are okay with John Matthews contacting Kathy, and we're gonna put him on for next time?
Yeah.
And we'll
Yes.
figure out a charge for that. And then we really need to have that discussion about the town annex and what we're gonna do. So that it's on old business, and we do have 2 executive sessions tonight.
John's almost set up a meeting with the school committee. It seems like they have a lot of questions as far as this, they could. put
And I
the
think his
school committee.
concern, he could, and with Dave too,
Yeah.
I think his biggest concern was trying to come up with a committee on different options moving forward. So that we're not just looking at one thing, we're looking at all the options for the high school.
Yeah.
So do you want him to start there with the school committee and with Dave, and then
I think that's
see what
probably-
you guys
I mean,
come up with for
those-
solutions?
That's the invested party in it, is the
Yeah.
school committee.
Sure.
So I would say, the superintendent, I'd say that's where to start.
And did Kathy send you the correspondence coming from the Belchertown
Belcher.
Select Board?
I did not.
Okay. So I did receive an email, which Kathy's gonna be sending to you guys with interest from another select board member in Belchertown, with starting the talk of regionalization. So it's something, she was really just questioning, like, what are the questions that need to be asked? Who directs us? What are the first steps in this process? So I did talk to Chris Martin right before the meeting, and he said he's going to reach out to Desi. They have a contact there that can start that conversation on what the steps would entail. I'm not saying that we would or we wouldn't do it, because I don't know. It's up to the taxpayers in the end. But I think if other towns are reaching out, it's because there's a need for it. And I know we face a deficit every year with the school systems. I know South Hadley's facing a deficit, Belchertown's facing a deficit. It seems like regionalization might be one of the options.
I think it's always good to explore options, have those conversations, because then you know.
Right.
And if you don't, you never do know.
So I'll have Kathy send the email from that select board member, but I think that would be a good conversation for you to start with Mr. Matthews and the school superintendent, school committee, and go from there. So Kathy, could you reach out to John and just, or John Matthews, I said Edwards, and
Yeah.
John Matthews, and just see if he wants to start there, because like Glenn said, he has a lot of questions that we won't necessarily be able to answer. Because we don't know what they're doing behind the scenes either.
Yep.
I can send it to you again, because I just sent it to Chris this afternoon. All right, and then I know we started the Park and Rec department. I mean, we're going to be doing the budget, and Mr. Petrus is here. That's something that we really, I don't know how to go about starting it. I know we had a lot of fish to fry, so to speak, but I think it needs to be part of the budget.
I did reach out again to last week, like you asked, from Glenn. I didn't get anything back.
All right, I can call him. I'll call him.
But where are you with that? What have you done so far?
So honestly, not much, because we've had other things going on that we had to take care of first. We've had pretty much 2 meetings almost every week, if not every week a meeting, trying to do other things in the town. So I know Glenn Durham was reaching out to the Belchertown Rec Department, and he was collecting information from them. We haven't heard back from him yet, but I have his telephone number, so I'll call him. That might be easier than trying to do it through emails. So,
I spoke to him like over a year ago.
yeah,
Spoke to Kyle Belchertown, I spoke to Amy and Hadley.
Yep.
You know, it's not that difficult a thing to do. It just takes the process to do. It's gonna cost a few bucks. Of course, everything costs a few bucks.
right.
But, just like Dave's looking for help, this is where I think, you really need to look at it. Besides the budgets, do you ever strategically look at each department, what their needs are? And maybe they don't need what they have, because we better use it over here. And we used to do that in the school system, and I think you need to do that as a town too. Like I was just listening here, why didn't the building department help out when Dave needed help plowing during that storm? I mean, these people do this, I mean, we're one town. Why don't we do this?
And share FTEs.
Yeah, share help. I mean, we're a town. That's what we're here for. It's not to build empires of our own. And I can't do that because, I just think, it's easier said than done. I
I was
realize.
gonna say, they were out. I don't know how many hours building maintenance spent out, but I know they were out.
They had somebody at the, if not one, I know one, but it could have been 2 people at the safety complex the whole time taking care of that. And then these buildings came afterwards.
And I think honestly, Jim, what it comes down to is there's just not enough time for a part-time board to do all this. So that's what we're facing right now is,
I really think there needs to be 2 other people. It should be a select board member of 5,
and that would have to be something that is passed through the town.
right?
I agree.
No, I agree as well.
It's time to move to the next century here. We
Yeah.
can't keep doing the same things with the same way. And even like Dave, we know this. He should have a foreman with him that be ready to take over. It's just a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yes, it costs money, but again, look at what we have. And I always say this, we're not that poor a town. I think we have to stop building the poor thing. When we find money all over the place, here or there, we found $5 million to do the West Street. We can find the money, but we're not that poor a town. I don't know, maybe you disagree with me, but I don't.
I don't disagree with you. I think, we're a town that a lot of people like to be part of. A lot of people like to move into for a reason. I think we're very fiscally responsible with the money that we spend, and I think we hear that. I know I hear that, and the board members hear it. We have the accountant come in and explain things to us, and we have our audits and things like that. And you're right, but again, it's just sometimes, I know this board here, the past couple of months has just been, as Kristen said, it's been straight out. There's been 2 meetings, and these meetings have been 2.5, 3.5 hours long. We walked out of here one night, I think it was
10 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
And we started at 5:30. So,
And with, again, with
You know, we have
prioritizing things.
4 town administrators already?
No,
Seems like it.
gonna say, I don't think.
We're on a third. I mean, with that, we've hired, and again, it's a process, and it's a long process. Yeah, you know, right now we're working with a building commissioner that's taking time. As soon as that's done, we have a fire chief that's going to be taking front stage. We have to
Hired the one
show
from
the
Bradley was here before?
For the fire chief,
No, building.
we are in negotiations with him now currently.
He had some dealings with him. He seems to be a decent guy. I think he's ready to leave Bradley, I think.
But to your point, it's well taken, Jim, and definitely we like to have a Parks and Rec department. I think the board has agreed on that before. So we'll have to definitely look at that. And Chris has said she'll follow up with Glenn Durham and kind of see where we are with that too.
And I'll do that this week, because if we want it on the 2026 budget, it's gotta be done now,
Right.
because we're doing those now.
Tell me you can call me too, because I think I've got some, and I offered my help.
Yeah.
Like I said, the Park and Rec director, we said before, but we need a board under him or her, you know,
Yeah.
unpaid, just to survive, and
Supervisor.
And again, it's the money, but also, as I told you, this is a fee-based kind of thing. People aren't gonna be doing things for free. These fees, so you can build up this, revolving account. Consider done. I mean, just think of what can we do for him, you know? Dufresne is been Jim sitting there, but we're not really doing much with that at all.
We're not utilizing it to its full
I
potential.
walked yesterday, we looked at that whole big field in front, it's like, what are we doing here? You know, you can't say, well, we need to save this for Charlie Day Park once a year, when he's sitting there, you know?
Yeah.
So much more can be done.
You're right.
Hopefully, use the money from the logging to put it into the park and do something there, make it look a little better than it does. We started is to put some trash cans there. I mean, I think I said that before, people disagree, but put some trash cans in there. You have people who can empty it once in a while, rather than people putting the dog stuff and just leaving it there in the ground. Let them throw it in something,
Well, everyone
without putting it
in
in the
the,
grills like you see, you know.
but everyone in the town, or all the neighboring towns, which is what we had decided was carry in, carry out. Because all the towns are doing that. It became a point where people were dumping their household trash in our dumpster.
The trash
So we're not,
cans are being filled up.
right.
I'm just talking regular trash can. It's not the big dumpster, just a regular trash can. We used to have it.
Which we do have it at the dog park, and Jeremy enters that, or empties it periodically, but. So to ask the other two board members with the Park and Rec Department, are you guys okay with me meeting with Glenn and Jim? Or does there have to be a committee?
No,
Can we
I
just start and have the meeting and figure out, like outline it, and then,
think we start. We got to start moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meeting afterwards.
Thank you.
all right, so we'll set up that meeting. I'll figure out what Glenn's availability is, and I don't have your email or your telephone number, but Kathy probably does, or no?
Mike?
Okay,
Stay there.
I have it. I
Yeah.
can forward it.
okay, perfect. So we'll make that meeting happen this week or next week, depending on Glenn.
See with the dog thing again, let go,
The bylaw,
It's,
bylaws and all.
it's gonna be on the next annual. We have to do the posting and everything. We had a deadline for the special town meeting first. But, yes. All right, so does the board have anything else? Because we have a special
Yes.
town lawyer waiting for us.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much for
Thank you,
coming.
Dave.
Thank you.
thank you, Jim.
So we will now enter executive session 30A-21A-2 to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. And I apologize, I should have read the other one first, because we're going to start with that first executive session, 30A-21-A-3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. And we will only come out to adjourn the original meeting. Roll call vote, Dufresne, aye.
Labonte, aye.
Sexton, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.